Creature Hiding from Humanity by DudeThatsGas. A couple of months ago, my friend and I decided that we would like to go down to this place called Black Canyon. It's a nice rural spot. Not too many people go there. But the main attraction is the lake and the small cliffs that you can jump off of. It's always better to go later in the day, so the sun isn't beating on you the whole time. So my friend and I decided it would be wise to get there around 6 p.m. It was honestly like any other kind of day. Nothing out of the ordinary. There were people hanging out in this middle of nowhere place, and we were all having a good time. I sent some off of the cliff, but then I forgot about the natural water slide that's about a 3 to 5 minute walk away from the lake. I asked the people to watch over our stuff, got my friend, and decided to go check it out since I haven't gone down in a long while. It took us about 5 minutes to get there, since my friend is very cautious. And looking at it now, if they hadn't been, I might have had a bad run-in with whatever the hell we came into contact with. Right as we were about to get to the water slide, I heard this indescribable noise. The closest thing to it was like a demonic generator going off. It was certainly like nothing I had ever heard before. In all honesty, I didn't believe what I was hearing at first, so I quickly turned to my friend and asked, "Hey dude, did you hear the same thing I just did?" My friend turned and looked a little frightened and said yeah. Neither of us could determine what it was, but that wasn't going to stop me from going down this slide. Yes, it was a terrible decision. I started to walk on down to the natural water slide, leaving my friend behind. When I swear, I saw a round head and a lanky arm fly behind a rock. I was about to pass by. I froze at first, but I figured that my eyes were just playing tricks on me. People see things that aren't real all the time, right? Anyway, I only took one step forward before I heard the same noise as before, only much louder. The same demonic-like generator noise boomed out from behind the rock that I saw something dart behind. After that, I turned tail and ran as fast as I could back to my friend. I asked again, in a frightened tone, practically yelling, "Did you hear that?" My friend looked as on edge as I was, just responded with a simple, "Yes." After hearing my friend's answer, we ran as fast as we could back to the lake. When we came back, out of breath, the people asked us what was wrong. I told them what my friend and I had encountered. They looked extremely surprised. A man then spoke up and told me that I wasn't the only one with this sort of run-in. He told me that many people have told him they've heard strange noises over by the waterfall. People believe it to be a skinwalker or a wendigo. After hearing that, I've never gone back to that waterfall since. Something lingers there, and I don't really want to find out what.
This is about my time in the U.S. military, the Army to be exact. I will not disclose my unit or where I was stationed. In respects to ComSec, that's communication security for those of you who don't know. I could say I was in Korea at the time, a place bursting with life and excitement. The culture alone is awe-inspiring. Majority of the older population loves Americans, for obvious reasons. This story isn't about the good times I've had there. No. This is about a night I was on AHA guard. An AHA is an ammo holding area, generally for training purposes as Korea is no longer a live combat zone. At the time this took place there were 3 of us, and names will be altered for safety reasons. Sergeant Monroe, Private Jeffrey, and I, Private Chrono. I was driving the Humvee at the time to relinquish the current guard to their duties. It's only a 24-hour duty, so it's not like we had to stay out there for several weeks or anything. As we pull up to the gate at the entrance to the AHA at 0300 hours, just 3 hours prior for our shift, so we can get briefing and secure the location. Yes, it was already secured from the prior guards there, but it's standard procedure in as an infantryman, and, well, the military altogether. Redundancy and repetition. For those who have served, you'll understand. Once we made our rounds securing the area, we went back to the guard shack. I was voluntold I was going to be on the first shift guard, while Sergeant Monroe and Private Jeffrey sat back at the warm guard shack, playing cards most of the time. We broke up our shifts into 4-8-8-4, so I had the shorter shifts, but I also had to go out there twice. It never bothered me though. I preferred the first and last shifts anyways. So let's start with my first shift. I donned my battle garb, grabbed my rifle, and I started walking the perimeter first. The entire AHA wasn't very big, but when you're on the side of a mountain with a dense forest, it could be a bit of a bitch to make your way around. It took about an hour to make it around the AHA. Nothing too exciting. Spotted a few deer. Now those fuckers are creepy enough. If you haven't seen a Korean deer, Google it. As I make my way back inside the gate to start checking the locks and all the containment units, I heard the foghorn. It would blast in sequence to let everyone know that there was a storm or something coming. Different sequences tell you different things. This time, however, it was just going. One large bellow of the horn, and it stopped. No clue what that was supposed to mean. I figured I would check in with Sergeant Monroe after my shift to see if he knew anything. After all the locks were checked, I made my way to our tower. For a better understanding, the guard shack is at the entrance of the AHA. The tower is in the opposite corner across the area. It's about 30 feet tall, 4 foot by 4 foot wide. It's enough space for 2 men in their battle rattle. I bust open my breakfast MRE and I stare out into the dense forest. 3 hours into my shift, I radio into the shack to make sure Private Jeffrey was awake to cover down on my position. And that's when I saw it. A thick, dense fog began rolling in over the hillside. It was like a tsunami crashing into the trees. Everything disappeared behind it. It came in so fast. Now pulling security is going to be a pain in the ass. Only 15 minutes left until Private Jeffrey starts his patrol. I'll need a radio in to let him know. 1000 rolls around and I can hear Private Jeffrey exit the shack. Just madder than hell, cussing up a storm. He began his patrol around the perimeter. I remember I told you about the redundancy and repetition. As he came around to where the tower was, which is also the steeper part of the hillside, I can hear him falling and cussing and all that good stuff, but I couldn't see him. The fog had settled in and it was going to mean a long shift for him. Private Jeffrey yelled up as he approached the tower. "Get your ass down here!" As I started to gather my things and make my descent, the foghorn blasted again. One long blare. Day late and dollar short, I thought. The fog was already here. I made my way down to brief Private Jeffrey what I saw, which was not a damn thing. And he began to make his way up. He looked almost frightened climbing the ladder. I thought he was just afraid of heights. I know that I was wrong. On my way back to the shack, take off my gear when Sergeant Monroe wanted to play some cards. He apparently was bored and didn't want to sleep. That asshole decided to keep me up the entire shift. So he played a few rounds of cards, but every now and then he would glance out the shack window. I asked if something was wrong, but he just kind of shook his head. He seemed very uneasy, almost scared. So I kind of did the dumb private thing and got loud at an NCO. That's a non-commissioned officer. "What the hell is the problem, Sergeant?" He looked at me like he was about to rip my head off and shit down my neck. Honestly, I've never been more afraid of the man. He leaned in and told me to keep my mouth fucking shut about this. He told me that those foghorns have a distinct code. One solid blare is to commemorate the Korean War and the soldiers lost both American and South Korean. He also said that it was to commemorate the late wife of the Korean general. She had lost her husband during the war, and before this post was a post, it was a small village that was home to the battleground. he had fought and died in. The second horn is to welcome her return. He said he had seen her once, back when he was a private. He said all you could hear was crying. He said that it scared the shit out of him. Kinda went quiet after that, and he continued to play cards until his timer went off for his shift. Shot me a look like don't say a fucking word type of look. I never did tell Private Jeffrey. Probably still won't. Sergeant Monroe donned his kit and was headed out for his patrol. I had an hour to myself until Private Jeffrey shows up. After getting all that slapped on me, I had a newfound respect for the man, but god damn it scared the shit out of me. I had the last shift after all, and it was going to suck. I pulled out my last MRE and began warming it up. This one had Reese's Pieces in it. Fucking score! I usually save all the candy from MREs for bartering later. But anyways, I'm getting off track. After I finished my meal, ready to eat, I decided it was time to get some rest before my next shift. Last thing I want is patrol that's dead-ass tired. I pull up my rucksack that had my pad and sleeping bag, and I lay out for just right next to the door so I can get out to relieve Sergeant Monroe once he radios in. He was the only one smart enough to bring a timer. The radio made a weird hiss noise and then crackled. Must have been Sergeant Monroe. I rushed to get ready and head out for my patrol around the perimeter. I fucking hate that part. It's worse with the fog. I donned my gear and grabbed my rifle and headed out again. Now this last shift wouldn't have been so bad if Sergeant Monroe didn't drop such a fucking bombshell on me. Now I gotta watch out for fucking ghosts? Shit. This is going to be a long shift, I thought. I started my patrol taking the same path as I did last time. The fog had gotten so thick now, it's smarter to do it that way. As I traverse the shit terrain, the horn goes off again. Scared the shit out of me. Damn near literally. I fell and busted my ass on a stump, and as I when I went to regain my composure, I heard a faint wailing in the distance. First thing that came to mind was that woman. I booked it around the perimeter as fast as I could. But the wailing grew louder, as if it were following me. It got to the point where I felt like it was on top of me. I couldn't see shit. Once I made it back to the gate, I rushed over to the tower, leaving behind all the locks. I yelled for Sergeant Monroe, and he started climbing down. The only thing he said to me when he got down was, "You heard it too, huh? Welcome to the club."
Baffling Encounter in the Woods by mericasbaby. This encounter took place when I was a sophomore in high school. The neighborhood I lived in had thick woods behind the local rec center. These woods had a trail running through them, but if you stepped off the trail, you would find yourself in dense forest with lots of undergrowth, making it nearly impossible to see the trail, and vice versa. My best friend, R, and I would frequent these woods to partake in normal teenage mischief, resorting to one specific clearing just a few minutes down the trail and into the woods. We had done this countless times and never experienced anything strange aside from being spooked by local wildlife. On a sweltering Texas summer day, R and I decided to go to our spot. After we hung around there for a bit, we decided to make our way back home. The special thing about this spot was that in order to get back onto the trail, you had to walk over a small hill, probably 4 feet high or so. However, as we were climbing the hill, we heard 2 female voices talking about different sorts of weaponry. Which blades cause the most damage? How it hurts more if you sneak up on your victim. We decided to stay hidden amongst the brush for a few moments longer to hear what else they had to say. My heart fell through my ass as we heard them talking about basically how to butcher a human. Seems crazy, but hear me out. For some dumb reason, we just had to see these people. We didn't feel too threatened as it was broad daylight. The trail was usually pretty busy by this time of day. We made our way to the path and spotted the people who were saying these things. We saw two females. They were wearing brightly colored ensembles. Think that little girl stored justice. Their faces were, I guess, extremely aged. They had wrinkles, droopy eyes, and just the most unhuman expressions on their faces. We literally could not comprehend what we were seeing. And that's when we made eye contact with them. As soon as they spotted us, they started speed walking like I've never seen. They kept looking back at us, whispering to each other, and their speed kept increasing. Every time they looked back, we had to see their old faces that didn't match their bodies. So, we stupidly followed them down the trail. We were coming up to a right curve on the trail. There was a tree right on the crook of the bend, and you had to go right, as there was fencing right behind that tree. As they basically ran away from us, we watched them go behind that tree. We never saw them come out from behind the tree, proceeding on the trail. What the fuck? R and I were terrified, thinking they were hiding behind the tree, waiting for us to walk by so they could do God knows what with us. We turned our asses around and sprinted home. It's been years since this experience, and it still baffles me to this day. My heart is racing as I'm typing this. When I retell this story, I can't shake the unsettling feeling I felt that very day. After reconnecting with that friend, this experience came up, and we both cried our eyes out. Something was very, very wrong. Whether it be crackheads or something much more sinister. I hope to never come across them again. Always Trust Your Gut by Misguided Storm. Hi, so this is my first post in this sub. This happened recently, and I still can't fully wrap my mind around it. Just wanted to share. For context, I'm a college student, and I live in the city alone. I'm particularly close to the US-Mexico border, so human trafficking is unfortunately common here, and something I'm very aware of. Last week I decided to make cinnamon rolls. I realized I didn't have any frosting, but it was still 7-something in the evening and kind of light outside, so I didn't feel nervous about running to the store to grab some. I was wearing a t-shirt, baggy sweats, and Crocs. This will be important later. For anyone that doesn't know, there's essentially 2 ways to wear Crocs. One, with the strap on top of your foot, which is more casual. Or 2, with the strap behind your heel, which is more secure. I always wear them with the strap on top of my foot, because they're just barely too tight the other way, which makes it uncomfortable. As I was walking down the stairs to the parking garage in my building, I had this thought in my head. You should flip the strap down on your shoes in case you need to run. I immediately thought that was weird, because like I said, I never wear them like that. And why the hell would I need to run? I argued with myself mentally for a minute, but as I got to my car, I decided to flip it anyway. In the store's parking garage, there are 3 ways to get into the store. A sliding door with a ramp escalator, usually locked by 6 or 7, an elevator, or exit the garage, walk around the block, and enter the front door. I usually go up the ramp, but since it was locked, I parked near the elevator. I also parked with a few of those big cement poles on my left, so no one could park on that side of me and pull into a car or something. I walked over to the elevator, pushed the button, and all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The elevator is really slow, so I had a second to process this, and try to figure out why I suddenly felt so panicked. As I was trying to convince myself that I was crazy, there's nothing wrong, I looked to my right and saw a car driving up kind of fast. There were dents and paint chips all over it, and the front right headlight was smashed. The panicked feeling was screaming at me at this point, and right before they stopped behind me, my gut told me I needed to run. I'm decently athletic, but I'm not a runner. I don't know what gave me the power to run as fast as I did, but I ran all the way out of the garage and around the block to the front of the store. I could hear their tires screeching through the garage, but I didn't stop or turn around. I was shaking like a leaf by the time I got in. I didn't want to go to my car, because whoever that was could obviously just follow me home. I saw them fly past the front of the store and finally felt safe. I assumed they were gone. I walked a few laps through the aisles trying to collect myself, grabbed the frosting, and checked out. The entire time I was in the store, I kept trying to logically explain what just happened. Maybe the guy in the passenger side was injured, and that's why they were coming so close to the elevator. Maybe they needed to ask me a question. Maybe they think I'm absolutely psychotic for breaking into a sprint in the middle of the parking garage. Why did I hear tires screeching? I started walking towards the elevator to go back to the garage, telling myself I'm insane for being so scared. The panicked feeling came back in my stomach even stronger, to the point that I felt nauseous. I worked up the courage to ask a security guard to walk me to my car. I'm a really shy person, so asking a stranger for help isn't something I'm likely to do. He agreed, was really nice and helpful. We went down the elevator together and made small talk. He could tell I was scared and told me if I ever need anything, what days he's working, and who works the days he's not. As we stepped out of the elevator, the car from earlier was now parked diagonally in front of me, blocking me in. When they saw the security guard, they took off, and I haven't seen that car since. I don't know why they were waiting for me, and part of me is still trying to come up with some sort of justification as to why they did that. But all I know is whatever told me to fix my shoes, in case I needed to run, was right. And I'm never going back to that store again.